Hi. So you can ignore the first two faders. They're just having to do with the audio being ducked out. Actually, the first three faders. So to do a bus send, all you do is you double click this vertical line here. It creates a blank node. You click on the circle with the plus sign, the smaller one, to add something to the effect slot, and then you choose bus send. This will let you send to any lettered bus. So we already have a bus named A, and we actually already have one called B. So I'm gonna actually send to bus C. Bus C doesn't exist right now. So Koala would leave and then try to send to bus C, and it wouldn't be able to do it because it doesn't exist. So let's click the square with a plus sign, choose audio, and then create a mix bus called C. Bus C is going out to this headphone. So it's not going to be ducked when I talk. So I'm going to tell it to go to B, where the ducker is. And I'm realizing that Koala also is going to go to the headphone and not going to be ducked. So I'm going to switch that to B. And so now when I click play on the audio, when I talk, it's going to lower the volume on the music so that you can actually hear me. All right, so now that we've sent the audio to bus C, it's going to go down to B, over to be ducked. It's going to go down to A, and then go to A, and finally down to our headphones. So along the way, we can, add an effect on bus C and make C an effects bus. So in this case, let's say we add reverb. Okay, so we can make the reverb size is pretty big, so let's hear what that sounds like. So if we hit play, so you can actually move the fader on the reverb, and that controls how much reverb is on it. The other thing you can do is you can leave the reverb really strong on bus C, but you can send it less. So this bus send also has a mixer. So if I move it all the way down to 0, it's not adding much of the signal from C into our Koala sound. And if you move it all the way up, so gives you control over how much of the effect. In this case, we put reverb on it. But again, it doesn't have to be only reverb. We could add lots of effects. So you could add reverb and a compressor and some other things on here, distortion, and make a really interesting sound. And then every channel can be sent to it, and you can control how much of that effect goes to it. So right now we have two drums. The drums both would receive the same amount of effect. But what if we wanted the snare to not get that effect as strongly? A way you could do that is we could send it out to a second channel. We could add that channel. Multi-bus, Koala. So Koala now is going to go down to the headphone. If we look at the second instance, we're going to send it to B, and we are going to do a send to our effect, which is on C. So now the snare is going to get the reverb. So they're going to sound the same, you would think, but let's hit play. So the snare was getting a ton of reverb because we were sending a lot literally control how much reverb you want for each instrument or each fader that you send. And the last thing I'll say is that you can, when multiple sounds come into this mix bus, they interact with each other. It's like you're sending them to a room, and when they get to that room, the two sounds bounces against the wall or whatever the effects are in there, and they interact with each other along with the effect. So it's not exactly the same as if you were to copy, select, copy. So if we didn't send to the effect bus and instead just had koala going down to the reverb and the second instrument koala to the reverb, you could actually do the same thing, but you'd have to figure out how much reverb you want to give, or you'd have to do the mix yourself for each one. And you can do this. This is valid. But if we look at how much processor the reverb is taking up, it's taking up 4.4, and this one's taking 5.1, and this one was actually taking 4.5. So by having one reverb where two different sounds got sent to only takes 4.5% versus doing them separately is closer to 10. And so that's another reason why you might want to do a mix bus. But I think the most compelling reason, if you're not short on DSP, up at the top right you can see I'm at 25%. I'm not really taxed. Sometimes I do, and so this would be useful, but more often than not, the reason why I'm using the effect bus instead of separate instances is because I want the sounds to merge together, interact, or I'm doing lots of different effects, try to think of something worthwhile, but say I had something really complex and interesting, I wouldn't want to necessarily put all of these effects on each one of the drums. Instead, I would just have them all on one mix bus, and it saves resources. But not only saves resources, it saves you time, and it is a little more consistent. You have one sound, and you're applying that same sound equally, the same on both channels. So I hope that's useful. I wouldn't say I use effect buses a ton, but I probably should. All right. Talk to you later.